integration webcast today. My name is Barbie Mahovich with Synergist Technologies. I am the Director of Business Development for our manufacturing team, and I'm here today with Rodney Coffey. He's an Autodesk manager, a business leader. He's a partner with us to help our customers with the PLM integration. Works with the company Razorleaf, and we work closely with them to help our customers with that PLM and PDM integration. Today we're going to focus on PLM 360, which is a cloud-based product management solution tool that helps our customers manage things around processes, projects, and people. Helps you easily and effectively automate those key tasks by delivering the right information to the right people at the right time. So with that, what I'd like to do is turn this over to Rodney and help him make sure that he's helping you understand how this tool can benefit your business. So with that, Rodney, here you go.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. As Barbie said, today we're here to talk about PLM 360 to PDM integration services. Just a quick introduction of myself. My name is Rodney Coffey. I am the Autodesk Business Unit Leader for Razorleaf Corporation. I've spent a little over 10 years of my career in the Autodesk manufacturing channel, supporting all sorts of different Autodesk products from the 2D to 3D, AutoCAD Inventor. Also led an Autodesk data management team for a while, doing Autodesk Vault services around the whole Vault portfolio of products, from regular Vault Basic to Vault Professional. And myself and my team today support Autodesk PLM 360 and integration services around that. So since product launch late 2011, early 2012, Razorleaf has been involved with Autodesk and a number of partners, such as Synergist, providing these services to the channel. So before we begin and take a look a little bit further into integration, I wanted to start at a high level. So we may have some folks on the call that are brand new to PLM 360 or just PLM in general. So I wanted to make sure we talked about the difference between PLM and PDM. And I'll apologize ahead of time. We're going to have a lot of acronyms in this presentation, so I'll do my best to describe everything. So product lifecycle management. PLM is the process of managing the entire lifecycle of a product from concept through the design engineering cycle, manufacturing, and then to end of life or service and maintenance. Right? So that's all the data across all departments, kind of company-wide. So we think we have operations, engineering, marketing, all the information across the whole product lifecycle. PDM, product data management, is the use of software or other tools to track and control the data related to a particular product. So when I think PDM, I really think the CAD data or the design data that surrounds the product. So we think of, we're going to talk specifically about two PDM products today, Autodesk Vault and SolidWorks PDM Professional. So what we're really talking about is the DWGs, the IDWs, the IPPs, the SolidWorks files, all the data that just surrounds the engineering cycle. So I'm a little more visual, so let's take a look at this a different way. Engineering and design use PDM. So for example, in PDM, a part or BOM data is engineering-centric and obviously closely related to the CAD data. For example, a single part is represented by a file that likely has some attributes, properties that are being managed by the PDM tool. In PLM, a part or BOM is represented by an item that likely also has a series of attributes, but many different file associations. So for example, an item in PLM may have Word documents that represent quality specifications or technical specifications, along with the CAD data and any other supporting documentation that might be tied to that. It also is important in PLM that item also manages important relationships to other items that exist within PLM. So we think of things like sales, right? Items that happen in the sales process, or customer records, or procurement records, vendor records, service records. All those things get tied to the product record inside of PLM. So where the PDM file and associated files are a good representation of the design, it's not near the representation that we're given in PLM. The PLM item is a representation of how a part or BOM is managed across the entire business process. It's not uncommon that PDM tools have some basic PLM functionality built into them. It's also not uncommon that when a PDM system is stretched to meet those needs, it usually falls short. So that brings us to our topic for today. We're going to talk about integration. So PLM 360 has been created and enabled to easily integrate with other products on the market for things like ERP, MRP, CRM, many other business system acronyms, just like PDM, Product Data Management. We at Razorleaf call this Business Process Integration, or BPI. So Business Process Integration allows us to take tools purpose-built to solve a particular business problem and connect them. Connecting these tools allows each tool to solve its specific business need while passing along the pertinent information, metadata, files, etc., to the next system in the process. No business tool is built to do it all. Some try. Connecting these tools allows all of them to focus on what they're good at while passing the correct information for the downstream process. So, one thing that's important to note, we define business process integration with a few key factors. One of these is the endpoint, or what we're connecting to. So this is the slide that most customers like to see when we are at the beginning of the sales process, right? These are the heavy hitters of things we've integrated with. So today we've connected with over a dozen different endpoints, some more mainstream than others, things like Salesforce, NetSuite, which are pretty common endpoints for us. Then there's some legacy systems like BPIX or Mapix, and then of course the powerhouses like SAP and Oracle. A number of different Oracle solutions we've connected to today. We've also connected to a series of homemade SQL Server applications. So today we'll talk about and see a demonstration of Autodesk PLM 360 and PDM endpoints. Specifically, we're going to talk about and see Autodesk PLM 360 and Autodesk Vault. So I've listed some of the CAD products here also. It's not uncommon for companies without PDM to still have the desire to pass BOM information along from CAD directly to PLM. So this is something we've done in the past. I will say I think it's first best to assess your PDM needs if you're in that boat. But again, this is about providing the right options to each business case and to our customers. So there are a number of folks out there who operate successfully without PDM today, and I wanted to inform everyone we've done that. So a good example is, let's say we've had some cases where we've had an inventor drawing or a SolidWorks drawing that has the BOM there, and we'll write an add-in into the CAD product to pass the BOM information out of CAD directly into PLM 360, where we then generate the items and the hierarchy. Right. So again, the endpoints we're going to focus on today, PLM 360 and PDM. So the second key factor in defining an integration for Razorleaf is, number one is the endpoint, number two is the use case. So different endpoints tend to have different use cases, so I've listed those out here. So for example, if we have integration to CRM, we're likely passing and managing customer and vendor data. We can do that with custom objects out of Vault. If we have an ERP integration, similar to what we do with PDM integration to PLM, we're likely integrating around the items and BOMs use case. This is probably the most common integration for us. A great example is where Vault falls a little short on effectively managing change orders. PLM 360 can do that quite well. So we use integration to pass the BOM data from Vault to PLM, so then it can then be attached to a change order record in PLM 360, which has robust configurable workflow, things like that, and then can progress throughout the process. So again, allowing the engineering group to focus on the design data and then pass the BOM information along with viewable files or attachments moving forward. Now, while this slide shows PLM, ERP, and CRM as business use cases, there are also some other functional use cases that customers commonly ask for. A big one is file transfer and access. So we'll get to see an example of this today. A lot of times companies like to be able to take a viewable, such as a DWF or a PDF or an e-drawing, out of the PDM system and then pass that viewable up to their PLM system. So what we'll see today is we're going to take a DWF and we're going to pass it from Vault to the Attachments tab in PLM 360. So why PLM 360 to PDM integration is so important. PLM 360 to PDM integration makes so much sense for many reasons. Let's take the most basic first, data redundancy. Engineering has all sorts of valuable information that gets captured in their PDM system, and they're oftentimes the only ones with access to that. Integration allows us to take that information and pass it along to the rest of the organization. Another example is file access. Engineering puts a lot of work into their design data and doesn't always share effectively, particularly in organizations lacking good document control or quality practices. Business process integration allows us to release the right information to the right people at the right time. Getting this information into PLM streamlines the product lifecycle management process and allows the design data to participate in the overarching process as needed. Security is another good reason for integration. Keeping the native design data in PDM isolated and safe from the rest of the organization behind the firewall while sharing the important metadata and viewables, that's a pretty typical use case for us. So for example, we have a number of military contractors and folks that work with the government who love to use PLM 360 to manage the process, but still have a desire to keep the design data behind the firewall. So if we think about the Autodesk Vault web client, right, that's still a behind the firewall application that anyone on premise or with a VPN connection can access the design data, right? What we do is we provide them a link from PLM 360 to that data so that they can use PLM 360 from the field, outside of the office, right? Outside of the firewall is the key here. But as long as they have a VPN connection, they can still get the design data. Without the VPN connection, they can't get behind the firewall. The URL link fails, which allows us, again, a seamless solution between the two. So let's tech talk a little bit. How do we do this behind the scenes, right? What does the architecture of this solution look like? So our business process integration solutions are built around PLM 360 using a middleware product called Jitterbit. Jitterbit is a cloud or on-premise middleware that takes advantage of a no-coding approach to integration. It allows us to easily connect to a number of endpoints using native connectors, PLM 360 being a great example of that. There's a native connector for PLM 360. And then for those products that don't have native connectors, we use connections like JDBC or ODBC to authenticate and connect to those solutions. So like I said, the things earlier, we think of SQL or Postgres or local created homemade solutions for ERP, MRP. We still use Jitterbit to connect to those. There are also some other things to note here. When connecting with Autodesk Vault for integration, we leverage the Autodesk Vault web services that Autodesk provides. We also take advantage of the job processor. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the job processor, that allows us, that's what gives us the event-driven activity. So for example, when I release a file in Vault, I'm going to then queue up the job processor to say, hey, take this property data and send it to PLM 360. So the job processor is actually what enables us to do event-driven activity out of Autodesk Vault. Now for PDM Professional, this is a little different. We also use Jitterbit as the middleware. There's no native Jitterbit connector, but where there's a lack of vendor-supplied web services, we at Razorleaf have created our own. So these are part of what we call our Clover-based offering. We use these PDM Professional web services to connect PDM Pro to many different systems, PLM 360 just being one of them. So we've used our PDM Professional web services to connect to things like V6, Eris, a number of other PLM solutions out there also. So that's a little bit about the architecture and the key components today. Now, as we go through the demonstration, we're going to focus the demo today on PLM 360 to Vault. I'll show the end users can see a little bit of the job queue and how that's working. We won't show much Jitterbit in the middle today. That's kind of all operating behind the scenes in the cloud. We have a Amazon web server that we have Jitterbit installed on that we use. So we've talked about having separate sessions for that, and if anybody has any questions at the end to discuss architecture, some of the technical requirements, please feel free to ask. So on to the demo, almost to the fun part. So the integration use cases we're going to see today, like I said, we're going to focus on PLM 360 to Vault. So what I want to do is just kind of set the stage and talk a little bit about the use cases that you folks are going to get to see today. So the first use case we're going to see is project management. So oftentimes one of the things we implement in PLM 360 is project management, right? A place in the system where customers enter their project data. Now this is typically the project number, what customer they're doing the project for. It's also expanded out into project tasks, maybe the project team, who's the leader of the team, the designer, what department heads need to approve the project as it goes through the different project phases, right? So this is pretty common PLM 360 case. Now, how does this impact Vault? Well, if you think about it, most times a project is created in Vault or a project folder to keep track of all the design data. So for example, all of our CAD files for a given project are going to reside in one location. So for those of you not taking advantage of category folders today, category folders in Autodesk Vault have properties, which is important because properties allow us to search and find the information we need when we need it. So what you're going to see today is we're going to create a project in PLM 360, and when we generate that project, it is also going to create a project folder or a category folder in Autodesk Vault. That folder will also take important metadata from the PLM 360 record and pass that on to the projects folder. So the second use case that we'll see today is what I call our items and bombs use case. This is the file creation part. We've implemented items and bombs and integration around Vault and PLM 360 a number of different ways. This just happens to be the method we thought we would show in the demonstration today. So what we're going to see is when an item is created in PLM 360, you'll see that we're going to assign a number, description, some other metadata. We'll also assign the project. So we're not only going to create that project using the last use case, but we're also going to tell PLM 360 where to create the design files. So what we do is, notice the design file type here is a part. We store our templates for the inventor data inside of Autodesk Vault. So what the integration does is, it takes an item that's created, and if we tell it the design file is going to be a part, it goes to the template, generates the IPT and the IPT's drawing, assigns the correct number, places it in the correct project folder, and assigns the correct metadata. And then the last use case we'll see, this is one of the functional use cases I talked about earlier, is the file transfer, file access use case. So the first thing we'll see is the file transfer method. So you're going to see that when we categorize a file in the engineering category and it gets released via Vault, we're going to kick a job off the job processor that's then going to take the DWF, the DWF created, and put it on the attachments tab of the PLM 360 record. Now, we've done this with a number of different files. We have done this with PDFs, particularly in PDM Professional. We've also done native CAD files in a few instances, so we could pass the native IPTs, DWGs, IDWs over to PLM 360. We've also had a number of requests to do translation files, things like STEP or stereolithography parts, STL, those types of things. The other thing we're going to show is the file access. So as I talked about earlier, we provide a Vault URL link to the web client on all of the project items in PLM 360 and all the items and bombs items in PLM 360. So we'll get to see and take a look at how that works. All right, so let's take a look at the live demonstration here. Let me just switch over. Okay. So here we have Autodesk Vault Professional. You'll see we have a designs directory, which is pretty common folder structure for Vault. And underneath designs, we have a projects directory. This is where all of our PLM 360 projects are going to be created in here. So you'll see we have a few already created. Again, the green folder and this category icon tells us it's a categorized folder. For those of you who aren't familiar with this, the difference between a regular folder like designs, notice over here, system, there's no UDPs or user-defined properties. And one of these categorized folders is the property data. So you'll see we have 3 here right now. We're going to go over to PLM 360, and here from the main menu, you'll see we're going to work in this category right here, Vault Integration Demo. We have 2 workspaces we're going to work on. We're going to work in the JBT projects and this JBT Items and Bombs workspace. So we're going to start in a project space. So there's just a couple projects already in here. We're going to create a new one. We're going to create a new project, and we're going to call this the XJ Motor Shield. All right. And we're going to enter a description. And let's assign a project lead here. I'm going to assign myself to that field, and we're going to pick a customer. So let's pick this RC Off-Road Company. Now note we have a Vault project ID and a Vault URL field. They're not populated yet because we haven't hit save to run the integration piece. So what's going to happen is when I hit save, behind the scenes, PLM 360 is sending a message to Jitterbit, and then Jitterbit is going into Vault using the web services, and it's going to create this folder and carry this metadata over to the new Vault folder. So I'm going to hit save here. Right. You can see the ID and the URL aren't populated just yet. Right. We're going to go over to Vault. And I'm going to have to do some refreshes. Obviously, this doing everything in real time, we have to refresh in order to make some things happen. So we're going to do a refresh here. And you can see that the XJ Motor Shield project folder is created. And notice the project customer is then populated. And again, because we're doing everything in real time, if I do a refresh here, there we go. You can see that all the properties are now populated for that. So along with regular metadata, things like the project customer, lead, name, number, we also bring over the project status. Right? So notice the project status here is creation. So if you think about it, your PLM 360 users and your Vault users might be fairly isolated, right? The guys that use Vault might not be everyday PLM 360 users. As they're working on the design data, they may want to see the status of that project. So if we go back to PLM 360 and we take a look at the workflow of this project, you'll see that it has its own design cycle. So as this PLM 360 object goes through the design cycle here in PLM, it's going to go back and it's going to update the project status in Vault. So again, another piece of Vault functionality that I'm not sure how many of you out there are taking advantage of, but if we think about what this means for Vault reporting and Vault metrics, now we actually have real-time project data existing inside of Vault, just due to the integration and being able to pass that data over. Another great thing about what this does for us is, let's say that I just come into Vault in the morning and I need to see every project that we did for RC Off-Road. Right. Now, when I search for that company name, it goes through and it pulls all the projects out. Or maybe I want to see every project that Steve Dunn worked. Right. Now we can see that Steve was the project lead for these projects. So again, not only creating a place to store the design data, but also giving us powerful metrics to search and report on inside of Autodesk Vault. So use case number one, we've created a project. Let's go to the next step. We're going to go back to PLM 360, and just to show, nothing up my sleeves, we look at the XJ Motor Shield. No projects, no files here, right? So we're going to go back to PLM 360. We're going to switch over to the Items and BOMs directory, or the Items and BOMs workspace. And we are going to create a part file. So I'm going to go and we're going to add an item. You can see here we're going to give this a number. I'm going to make this the P-S100. Oops. We'll add a brief description here. And the project name. So notice as soon as we created that project over in PLM 360's JBT Projects workspace, it shows up here for the Items and BOMs workspace. Again, the power of PLM being able to create easy relationships to other item entities, right? Same thing for the customer field we have here, or the stock number, right? Relationships amongst PLM 360. So the next field is the important one, the design file type. This could really be anything. We've had customers where we've implemented this and we've used Word documents, right? So maybe they wanted a, you could be using Vault Office where you're checking in Word, PowerPoint, Excel, those types of documents. We could also include those in this list, grab them from a Vault template location, and place those in the project directory. This is really flexible. Right now our demo is set up just around the Autodesk CAD. So you can see we can create an AutoCAD drawing, an inventor assembly, an inventor drawing, IDW, or an inventor part. Now, what we decided to do as part of our demonstration was whenever we create a part or assembly, we know we're going to have a drawing for one of those anyway, so we go ahead and we generate the drawing along with that. So again, we're going to pick part. We're going to add some other metadata here. We're going to say that the stock number is P100. And let's add a weight. We're going to say this is 50 pounds. It's going to be made out of steel. Manufactured cost, $25. Well, we could add some comments. And then again, Vault file status and the Vault URL of that drawing. Okay. Let's go ahead and we're going to hit save. That's going to save the PLM 360 record. All right. So a couple things to note before we go over to Vault here. Notice when the PLM 360 item is created, right, we also have up here the life cycle. So what we really want to pay attention to is not necessarily this life cycle here, but this revision. So notice the revision for this object right now is work in progress. Again, the design engineering team is over in Vault working, right? Now they have this record in PLM 360 that's connected to their design data. They're going to want to know the status of that record. That is one of the fields that we pass over to Autodesk Vault. So let's go over to Vault, and let's take a look in our XJ Motor Shield. Let's do a refresh here. You can see that our part file has been created along with the IDW. Give that a minute to populate the properties here. There we go. So we can see here's that PLM release status, work in process. We see the part numbers carried over, the manufactured cost. Let's do another refresh. I think it's just still working on one of those properties. There we go. Now we can see the PLM material steels here, the stock number, and the weight. So again, this is just a set of properties we decided to pull over. This could be any variance of properties that are created. So the next thing we want to show, so we've shown the project creation from PLM 360 to Vault. We've shown file creation based on items and bombs from PLM 360 to Vault. Now let's take a look at the file transfer. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to do just a little bit of CAD work. So I'm going to take these and we're going to go ahead and get these locally. And I am going to open up the IDW for this part. And it should be quick. I already have Inventor open here. Good. So we're going to place a base view of this shield. And we're going to go back, get to the right one. Here we go. And we're just going to keep this super simple. I'm not going to do all the flanges and everything I should really have. So let's say it's this simple and it's complete, right? We're ready to release this so that it creates a DWF in Vault. So I'm going to go ahead and check this guy back in. We are going to jump back over here to Vault, do a refresh, just so we can see the file status updated. And now we want to release this so it goes to Vault. So for those of you using Vault Workgroup, Vault Professional, you're probably ahead of me. You already know the problem, right? These files were created in the base category, so they don't have a life cycle. So we need to take these files and place them in a category that has a life cycle. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go to Actions, Change Category, and we're going to place these guys in the engineering category. Now, what we've done behind the scenes is the job processor knows that any file in the engineering category that gets released needs to send a job to the job server to create or push the DWF from Vault to PLM 360. How does PLM 360 know, or how does Vault know what PLM 360 item to attach the DWF to? Well, if we look over here, so again, this is kind of tech talk for some of you wondering how it's done. We have the PLM ID. So the unique identifier in PLM 360 is listed right here on the Vault object. So that's how we kind of connect the dots. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these objects and we're going to go through and we're going to release them. So I'm going to change state. We're going to go and we're going to pick release. Now notice, just because, right, down here in the comment, release to manufacturing, send DWF to PLM. So we modified that just so it shows up in the comments and the users know what happened there. So we're going to go ahead and pick OK. So in Vault, we see that our IPT and our IDW are now released, revision A. Right? And what we're expecting to happen is that DWF of these design files will be placed on the Attachments tab in PLM 360. So let's hop back. Right? So here's our PLM 360 item. Right? Nothing's changed yet. We're going to go ahead and do a refresh. And you can see we now have one attachment. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the Attachments tab. And you'll notice we have the PS100. And what we do is we put the revision of the design file in Vault as a suffix here. So you can see we have PS100_A. That's the revision of that file. I'll show you why that's important in just a moment. So here's the DWF. So if we hit refresh again, sometimes this preview over here just takes a few minutes. So it's still working. I'll show you how this works. For those of you who aren't familiar with attachments in PLM 360, in order to view this, all I have to do is click the link, and it does a download of the file to our local drive. And if I pick this guy again, it's going to open up Design Review, and here is our DWF. So let's walk through a different scenario here. So this is great. Our item's up here. It has the DWF from Vault. Folks are looking at the record in PLM 360, right? Maybe it's attached to a change order record and it's going through the change process, and they say, well, wait a minute. Somebody forgot to add all the annotations to that drawing, or we need to modify the design, right? So we're going to go back to Vault where the engineers are working. So first things first, we need to get the design into work in process or work in progress. So we're going to take this guy and we're going to flip it back. Okay. And now there's some more design work to do. So again, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to open up. We're going to go ahead and open up this file. And we're just going to add some dimensions just so we can see the DWF change. Real lightweight design work. So we'll go through here. We're going to add a few dimensions. Like I said, just enough to notice a change in the document here. We're going to go ahead and check this guy in. And yes, we will save it. Good. And back to Vault we go. So do a refresh here. We now see, we can see here using Vault, right, what revision A was, what revision B will be on release. So next thing we do, this document's all corrected. Now it's time to take this and we want to release the new DWF to that same PLM 360 record. So we're going to go through here. We're going to change the state and we are going to pick released. Now I want to show everybody something that I didn't show last time. When I hit release, okay, what's really going on is if I go up here and I go to tools and I look at the job queue, we are sending that DWF to Jitterbit via a custom job processor job. So for those of you who are familiar with job processor, there's typical jobs for things like syncing properties, generating the DWFs, right? We've generated a custom job that's part of our integration that basically takes the given DWF, names it with the suffix for the revision, and passes that off to PLM 360. So you can see here's the job that we currently have running. Here's one we had pending from earlier. All right. So let's go back to PLM. And again, we're going to do a refresh. Good. And here we see on the Attachments tab, we now have 2 attachments. Notice we still have PS100_A. And then here we have PS100B. So we have the DWF here. So same story. I could click the link just to show that everything's working properly. And I could open this guy up. And here we have our new DWF. So while engineering works in Autodesk Vault and has all of their file history represented as Vault does it, right? So we go through here and I see Rev A, Rev B, right? We have the history tab that shows us this. Now, this historical information is also passed to the PLM 360 users who are not everyday Vault users and don't typically have access to that information. Now, like I said, we could do this. We've had customers request that we send a viewable and a translation file. So think of this. You're using Autodesk PLM 360 and your customers or vendors have access to a particular workspace, right? You may just want to share the viewable with them and then the step file so that they can use that for machining or quoting a file or a job, all those types of things. So we could really pass any type of file to this Attachments tab from Vault. Now, another scenario we have is the file access scenario, right? So the customers don't want viewable files past the PLM 360. What they want to do is they want to use the Autodesk Vault web client that a lot of the users in the company may already be using to share this information. So for example, a user comes into PLM 360 and they're kind of shopping through items, they're looking through here, and they say, oh, okay, I'm looking at this XJ shield. I really need to see what that file looks like. Even without attachments, they have the Vault URL of the drawing right here. So when they click this, this is going to take them to the Vault web client into the direct location that the motor shield files exist. So again, here we're looking at the web client. We can see we have the original version, revision A, and revision B. And then of course the web client comes with its own configurable options to show release data or all the data, right? Another thing to note is notice the XJ motor shield up here, right? The project folder. So let's go back to PLM 360 for a moment. Let's say that that user isn't browsing the items and bombs, but they're browsing through the projects, right? So they have this big list of projects and they say, hey, I want to look at the XJ motor shield. I need to see all the design data that's tied to this. They can go here, same thing, goes to the Vault web client, and now they have a view of all the data that exists for that project. So again, taking advantage of integration, we've not only passed metadata back and forth, but we've also created easy access to all the viewables for PLM 360, all the design data. So we've provided access to all the design data to PLM 360, and then all the project or items and bombs metadata in Autodesk Vault. Right. So that is the end of the demonstration I have. I'd like to open it up, maybe kick it back to Barbie and open it up for any questions, comments, or anything, whether it be technical questions or process questions. Those of you who haven't used PLM 360 or Vault quite as often as others, if you guys have questions just about the basic capabilities, that'd be fantastic. You wanna, can you open up the forum for us, Barbie?
Yes, yes. So hi, everybody. So we do have one question. The question is, so do you not recommend to use items in Vault if integrated with PLM. Okay, the question would be, where do you manage those items, or can you manage them in both places? I guess if you could go down that path.
Absolutely. So when I did the PLM to PDM intro earlier, we talked about how a lot of times the in Vault, a part is closely related with the CAD file, right? Just a single IPT. Well, over the years, and I'm as guilty as this as anybody, back 2 or 3 years ago, if you wanted to integrate with Autodesk Vault, you went the items route. You had to. And a big part of that was having a single item in Vault that could have multiple attachments to it. So you might have, just like we talked about with PLM 360, the CAD file, a design spec, perhaps multiple CAD files, right? So we have done, this is really just, like I said with the items and BOMs file creation, this is just one flavor of the Vault demo. If we had enough time, and it would take hours, we could cover all the scenarios. We have done Vault items integration to PLM 360. It just all depends on what the customer's existing process is. So if you're a Vault customer out there, you've already been using items or the item master. This is what we're talking about, this guy right up here, right? If you're using this structure today and you're using it successfully, then we could definitely build an integration to PLM 360 leveraging that. So what happens is in Vault, right, you assign items to all your CAD files, you tie multiple CAD files to this record, and then what we do is the same thing. It's a job processor add-in. We have a job processor add-in that takes items, and when they're released, it takes all the items, structure, hierarchy, metadata, all those things, and then it passes that over to the items and BOM space in PLM 360. So there is another path there. We just didn't show it in the demonstration today. I would not. My personal recommendation would be, if you're not using the item master and you plan to integrate with PLM 360, you don't have to use it. I would say do something like the demonstration we did today. If you've already been using item master for years, you want to continue to use it, there are integration options for you too. Does that answer the question?
I believe that does answer the question. That's the only open question that I have. Was there anything else that anyone wanted to talk about, or any other questions that were on your mind? Again, the key capabilities of PLM are bill of material, engineering change management, new product introduction, supplier collaboration, quality, and cost. But there's many apps that come right out of the box. And we have customers that are using PLM for the Vault integration that we talked about today, but they're also using things for tooling and quoting and giving our customers the ability to manage those processes. So any open questions? Oh, we do have another question. My apologies. Do we know if it'll be purchasable in EMEA shortly?
To my knowledge, yes. You can speak with an Autodesk representative in EMEA, or we can help you. Your account manager here can help you talk through global licensing and how that works. Let me see if I have anything else.
So one thing I could add, since we have a little bit of time, is we covered our Autodesk PLM 360 to Vault example today. I know during the presentation I talked a little bit about Enterprise PDM, and I don't know if we have anybody in the call using that, but we've kind of found that PDM is PDM as far as the integration goes. So our Enterprise or our PDM Professional integration actually looks very similar to this. We do the same type of file creation, same metadata transfer. We create project directories, very much the same. We've also looked at doing this with other PDM products, things far outside of the normal portfolio. So if you are using other homemade systems, or you're using other things to manage CAD, it's worthwhile to look at PLM 360.
Yep. Any further questions? I don't have anything coming in. So as a follow-up and a call to action to this webcast, you will be receiving a call from your account manager. Additionally, you'll be receiving an invitation to Synergist University, which is going to take place on June 1st in Bethlehem at the Sands. We will be giving you a discount to attend this one-day full day of training, and we will have numerous PLM sessions there. After that event, we are going to be holding a PLM hands-on test drive with any of our customers, so if you have interest to attend that, please reach out to us, as we want to make sure that we are, helping support you and understand the full realm of this. Any other questions, any other last-minute questions? I have nothing coming in. Rodney, I don't know if you have anything else to wrap up?
I don't think so. I think we're good. I would just say, if there's questions, feel free to reach out to Synergist, and we will get answers out to you all.
All right, and I am going to be answering privately any additional questions. Thank you for attending today. We appreciate your time, and we look forward to helping you as you move forward in 2016. Thank you.